from Star Studios in the basement of Jupiter House Coffee in Denton, Texas. This is Coffee with a Sign Painter, a weekly podcast hosted by sign painter Sean Starr that consists of interviews with other sign painters and some of the customers and characters Sean comes across while running his studio.
Hello, sign painting friends. We are back with another episode of Coffee with a Sign Painter. Today, I have another interview that was conducted when we were in Ireland. This one is with Jack Hollands, who's a English sign writer. And we had some really interesting conversations with Jack while we were there. He's a really smart guy, really passionate and obsessive, actually, about the craft. And so we're going to go ahead and talk to Jack. This is at the Red Hen Bar in Limerick, Ireland. And here we go.
As I was busy at university, and I finished my second year, and just before we left the end of our second year, all the tutors, they said, right, when you come back, you all need to know exactly what you want to do for a career.
Okay.
You all have to pick your one individual thing. Like if you're going to be an illustrator next year, you're going to have to all focus just on your one thing. I had some work experience that summer with different advertising agencies and people like that. Some good companies who a lot of people would kill to go and work for.
Right.
And when I was there, I was talking to all the workers, and I said to everyone, I said, what's your work-life balance like? Because it's always been an important thing for me. I've always wanted to be able to have control on family time or downtime if we want, being able to go where you want and take holidays when you want. And I asked everyone in the studios, like, what's your work-life balance like? And so, it's terrible. I miss out so much of my kids' lives, but the money's great, so,
It's like a really weird question for a younger guy. How old are you?
I'm 26.
So at the time you were what?
23 or something, 24.
They must have thought you were totally crazy asking that.
Yeah, probably.
It's awesome that you asked that, but they probably thought it was weird.
So yeah, that was, I sort of knew from then, after doing the experience with the different studios, that I would never want to work in a design studio.
Okay.
And so I'm doing this degree, paying loads of money to do a degree, where you're learning to be a designer, and I'd made my mind up, I don't want to be a designer.
Okay.
But I do love the creativity, I love working like that, and it's just like a natural thing. So I felt a bit stuck. And then I had a motorbike crash the first day of that summer holidays, and it was a bit depressing. I had my leg in a cast, and I found Dave Smith's video at 3 a.m.
Okay.
And he says that one line in his video, he's like, I think I've got the best job in the world. And he didn't say it sort of boasting, he just stated it. And I was like, oh, there, that looks like
the best job in the world.
That looks like the best job in the world. You're right, Dave. And I emailed him after that saying, amazing video, amazing work. Is it a viable career, do you think? And he said, phone me up Thursday at 8 o'clock, and I gave him a call. I had a list of questions all about it, and I really wanted to know more about signwriting. I'd never really knew it existed in this day and age.
Okay.
And he sort of set me off on a load of pointers and things, and it's sort of gone from there. It's like helped me out so much early on with where to get brushes, different books to buy, things to do, tips on how to do things.
So at that point, you'd never picked up a brush or messed with any of it?
I'd always avoided paintbrushes.
Yeah?
All my life, I've loved being arty and creative. I like using soft pastels and things, but I'd never liked paintbrushes at school or anything because they'd always be frayed, left in the pot.
Yeah, and they're like the cheapest,
my experience of it
brushes,
was like really bad, so I always assumed that painting was a messy thing, and I like nice neat lines and everything, so I'd always avoided painting. So I hadn't even picked up a paintbrush really, apart from painting and decorating and stuff like that. But I used to always love doing the cutting in on the ceilings or the walls when you're painting and decorating.
Okay, yeah.
Things like that now I look back and you can think,
it's kind of the same.
There's something I like about just pulling those lines. Like, why did I remember those days? Yeah. And then growing up, my older brother was really into graffiti.
Okay.
So that's always been a sort of theme. And my uncle, my dad, my grandfather, like all used to draw letters all the time. Like birthday cards would all have like big 3D writing with like drop shapes and stuff. And I've always thought it was really cool and drawn letters like that just for fun.
Okay.
But I never thought of it as a job or a career. Yeah, that sort of set me on my path to get into it.
Okay, so that conversation with Dave Smith kind of pushed you over the top?
Yeah, definitely. So he's sort of, just let me go, and I followed everything from there.
And you mentioned you're going to take his course, is that right?
I took his course.
You
Simon's
took
doing
the
it
course.
next
Simon,
time,
okay. Everything's a blur.
Yeah.
This is a crazy trip.
Yeah, I did it with Jed.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you're planning on moving down to Australia when?
It's in sort of 6 weeks now.
6 weeks, oh.
Yeah, so we've got one-way flights booked, my girlfriend and I.
One-way flights?
So yeah, one-way flights.
Burning the bridge behind you.
Yeah, we booked them about a year ago now. So yeah, it's
Now, how does that work if you're like an English citizen going down there? Can you just go and work there? Do you have to fill out paperwork?
We're under 30, so there's a scheme where you can go and live in sort of Canada or South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, and you can work for up to a year if you're under 30. So you can have a working holiday, it's like a long stay, and you can work in bars or whatever.
Okay.
No more than 6 months with one employer.
Okay.
And then you can make it 2 years if you do 3 months work out in the fields. But I don't think we'll do that.
Yeah. Like in the fields?
Yeah, like picking strawberries or
Oh,
something.
okay. Yeah, that sounds not great.
Up at 5.
Cool. So your Will Lines is down there. You're going to be working
Will and
alongside
Nathan,
him?
they came and picked us up before.
Pickering? Is that Nathan
Nathan Pickering.
Okay. Yeah.
And he picked us up from the airport. It's like really kind because Dave Smith again sort of told Will that we were going over to visit.
Okay.
And he put us in touch.
Nice.
And he picked us up, took us all around. I was sort of blown away by the Sydney Opera House and the bridge there.
Okay.
It's just wow, this is impressive. It felt like London in the sun. It's still got loads of history and old buildings. And
Right.
it's really busy.
But no dreariness.
Yeah, you got sunshine all the
Yeah,
time.
there
It was
you go.
winter. And it was like we got a ferry. Like it was commuting time. And it's about 5 in the afternoon. Everyone's finishing work. And you're on the ferry going around the bay, and you're looking at it's winter. It was warm. We're in t-shirts. People are hang gliding. People are sort of going around with a surfboard. And people are just doing all this outdoor.
You're like, I
stuff.
want to live here.
Yeah, I was like, this is just a normal winter's day.
Uh-huh.
And then back in England, it would just be rain, everyone miserable.
Yeah, we were talking, I don't remember who now, but we were talking about that the other night of just, I would rather put up with the heat in Texas and have regular sunshine and all that than deal with the winters, just me personally. Simon goes on and on about how much he loves New York winters, and I'm like, what now?
It was freezing there, your face goes numb.
Yeah, I know, it just hurts.
Yeah, it's painful.
Yeah, so you came out here. Did you and Tobias and Ashley all travel together out here?
We actually all got the same plane, yeah.
Just by accident?
Just by accident.
Okay, so what motivated you guys to want to come?
Tom just put the word out and sort
Okay.
of got in touch. And we'd been talking a bit before on Instagram, so I think he keeps talking about this really great world, this new Instagram. So it's all new to him, and sort of seeing guys like us working.
Yeah.
I think he's really into it and just keen to get us all over here. So yeah, he got in touch.
He's done an enormous amount of work.
It's amazing.
I'm in awe. It's like, what in the world how are you doing this?
Put it all, and all the work he produces as well.
Yeah,
Just, amazing.
Yeah, it's been really cool too because we've walked a lot of the city so far, and every corner there's one of his jobs, because he signs them.
Yeah,
and it's really cool to see.
It shows what sort of impact one individual can have on a whole town.
Yeah,
And it's really powerful.
Change the visual landscape for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And it's from a small thing. It's like one man.
Yeah.
It's one man with a paintbrush.
Yeah, in his studio. I mean, it's small, and he's just doing one job at a time. But it's beautiful work, and as you've seen, it's like Oh wow, it's really windy. As you've seen, it's like everybody, everywhere you go, knows the guy. You know?
Yeah.
He's like
Go
the
in any
mayor or
bar,
something.
yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
restaurant.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun.
I think it's great he's getting the support from like the council and interest from that.
Yeah,
We're trying to instigate some of that.
I'm hoping it's opening his eyes a little bit to see that, like, you know, with his passion and his, you know,
Can do, yeah.
yeah, like he can do amazing things, you know, because I think it's all sign people I've ever met, sign painters. It's like in artists in general, it's like we've all got this, especially when it comes to our work, this low self-esteem that like it keeps us from functioning like normal people, you know. But you know, I see a guy like that, and it's like, you know, he beats himself up about stuff. It's like, but look what you're doing. You're like, the whole city's enthralled with what you've put together. This is amazing.
You should be really proud, shouldn't you?
You should. You should.
I've got your little book, The Artist's Tale.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I bought
Yeah.
it ages ago.
Okay, yeah, that's been out there a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Nice picture of you on there.
yeah, without the mustache, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff. So, what have you been to Ireland before this trip?
Once on rugby tour,
Okay.
so I just remember the pubs.
Okay. Barely.
Yeah, barely.
I'm amazed. I think Limerick's a pretty amazing town. You know, I didn't know what to expect. You know,
Yeah.
we've never come over here before, but you know, going to that milk market. Did you guys get a chance to make the milk market?
Not when it was packed. Just yesterday when we went to
Yeah. It was insane this morning. I took pictures of loaves of bread.
Yeah, you showed me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, don't think I'd normally take a picture of loaves of bread, but it's like, this is awesome. You know, we have farmers markets in the U.S.
So it's a bit like that.
Well, it's like, that's what they want to be when they grow up,
Yeah.
is stuff like this. You know?
Yeah.
This, you know, we went and bought a bottle of wine at the one little place there. They do a lot of like, it's like a butcher shop,
Yeah.
and they have cheese and all that. And the guy came out and he's like explaining the label and pointing out, oh, I walked through this winery in Spain.
Oh, no.
And, you know, it's really cool.
Like really knows the people.
Yeah, and cares about what he's selling. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it's nice to know people like that.
Yeah. Makes a big difference in the experience.
I think we're a bit like that with painting.
Yeah, I think
care about things.
it takes people by surprise that
Yeah.
when they stop and talk to a sign painter, I think most, like, I'll come off the ladder and like talk, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, do you see this color red? You know, and I think it surprised them because they're like, you know, they're interested, but I think they're a little gun shy sometimes to talk.
Yeah.
But I always like to take time.
Then they can't shut you up, can they?
Yeah. You have the same problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just talk all the time.
Yeah.
It's great because you get to meet people and you make things happen.
Yeah.
Just from talking and
Yeah.
go in and meet someone in their shop and start talking, and they might not need a sign done, and you don't go in there trying to paint a sign, but they'll know someone or stuff happens like that. They've all got friends and they've got other shops and
Yeah.
things like that just evolve organically.
It's more of that like community approach to things.
Yeah.
You know, like I think how things used to be probably a long time ago, where it's like, oh, I
Yeah.
got this sign painter guy. He'll hook you up, you know, and he knows about this and that.
Yeah, it's just connecting the people together,
Yeah.
not just a Google search.
I noticed from some of our conversations, which you and I have never met
No.
prior to this, so this is really cool. We got all these people to meet. You're like very, you're like some hardcore researcher, it seems. Like you like know all the stuff about glass and all the details. You told me earlier today you looked at gold under magnifying glass
Yeah,
and
just
stuff.
the stages of burnishing.
Yeah. So what's gotten you that enthused about it that you're like that?
I've always liked science, and I've always been good at school, and naturally excelled at school without much effort. It's just sort of seemed a bit natural to just absorb some information like that.
Okay. So you're drawn to find the details behind things.
Yeah, and see how things work and why things do things. So yeah, that sort of motivates me a lot and draws me to do the research. Because, for instance, I was paletting my paintbrush on my palette, and you get bubbles popping up from the paint.
Okay.
What are these bubbles? And you sort of say, I'll hit the books and start reading. It's just the white spirit oxidizing.
Okay.
So I don't know, things like that is, I look at something and I want to know why it does that or what's happening. And I just do it with everything. Like, why does it?
You should start a blog for all the sign painter geeks, because I've been painting for over 25 years, and I've always wondered, but I've never had the motivation to go figure out what that was.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Very cool.
That's what I like about the old books. These old boys, there's so many of them that would do that, like the Raymond LeBlanc gold leaf techniques.
Yeah.
He'd go out and talk to the glass makers in the factory and talk to them about the process of making glass and like, is it coated in certain ways? And he's saying about he'd have a few glass jobs where the paint would peel off on newly installed glass.
Right.
But there's something about the ions in the glass are still sort of settling
so it's
down.
like the outgassing on a car, like we were talking about last night.
Yeah, on the paint. Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's still doing this process.
Like a chemical process still occurring.
And it becomes a soap, technically, between the film of the glass and the paint.
Okay.
So new glass is like, just give it an extra bonhomie and you'll be fine. So that you sort of, things like that. I think it's good to know.
Okay. So is the bulk of what you do on glass?
That's my main interest, is the gold and the glass. I don't know what draws me to it, but we did my family tree, my uncle did my family tree last year, or a couple of years ago now, and we found out because my granddad was a musician in a blues band, and his dad and his grandparents, it goes back as artists, so like Victorian painters, and the paintings are still sold now and things. And his other side of the family was a gilder and a scene painter for the theatre, so he would have painted all the backgrounds.
Nice.
So it's quite a creative bloodline, I think.
Yeah.
So I think there's naturally drawn to it.
I think there's something to that. All the people on my dad's side of the family were all either artists or writers, or everyone that came on the Ukrainian side of the family.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's. I guess it could be genetic, but I think it's also awareness. When you're told those things from an early age, I think it starts getting you thinking. Well, that could be something I pursue.
Yeah, I remember being really young, and we didn't have much money for the game consoles or anything when you were really young. But my mum would make stuff. We'd get some paper and some glue, and we'd just sit at the table. Yeah, like be really crafty. So growing up like that must, like you say, sort of influences.
Yeah, it's like an option to you, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas if your family always, if your family always were plumbers, I don't think necessarily you'd be thinking, well, maybe I'll go pursue something like art.
It's probably a mix of it as well, is it? When I was at uni, I found out I'm dyslexic.
Okay.
And I think so many signwriters are that struggle with spelling and things. But sort of doing a bit of research into that, it's just the way your brain works, and so.
Yeah, we've got a lot of autism in our family.
Yeah.
And I've read somewhat on that too, and it's the same type of thing. It's like autism creates like total OCD obsessiveness.
Yeah.
But the payoff of that is you
get to know something really well.
You dig your heels until you really get good at it. But dyslexia, that is true. I've met so many people involved in this that have that.
I've got a memory as well from school of we were doing design, like graphic design in school, and we'd have to draw a square and then make it into a cube. And my friend, my best friend in school, was sitting there trying to draw it, and I could draw it no problem. It's just I can draw it into a cube, and he just couldn't get it into his head how to draw a cube. He's like drawing the lines at different angles. He's trying to make it his brain just couldn't process a cube, and so that was like an awakening of so
this
some people
I can do.
Some people can't do a cube. They can't picture a cube, and then I could. Easily.
And that's something. And the older I've gotten, that's become more fascinating to me is how holistic like people as a group are, because like in just a stereotype in general, people that are drawn to like being accountants, you know, they're very, you know, and everything has to go in this little checkbox. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you got people like us who are like, I just really got up this morning and started painting something, but the two need each other.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
so like without the artist side of it, you know, that's a very boring world for the accountant. But without the accountant or someone to keep that kind of stuff going, the artist ends up like everything's chaos because they didn't take care of the
just
fine
like
things.
the show, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So but that, as I get older and older, that's just the most fascinating thing to me, is to see.
It's like balance.
Yeah, the personality types. You know, I think we're all born with certain predispositions, and then that sets us on a path of what we pursue. And then those, if everything's working right, holistically, people are, you know, great things can happen, because the accountant can say, okay, you've got enough money to go do this, and then the artist, like, you know, may just do it anyway, even if he can't afford it. But, you know,
figure out a way.
Yeah,
be
but
creative,
things balance out a little bit, and that to me is really fascinating. You know, because I know you were talking earlier about psychology, and maybe that's more anthropology. I don't know, but
social scientific things. Yeah, I do love the way the brain works as well. As, my mum's had brain surgery twice.
Okay.
And, so she's obsessed with sort of reading about the brain now.
Okay, yeah.
There's always different books, and it's very interesting. My brother's autistic as well.
Okay.
So I've got an autistic older brother.
Okay.
And just the way his brain works, like he likes to rap a lot, and is just the way he can link words together using the environment around him. His brain's working on a different level that mine just would never work on.
Yeah,
so
and
just link things the way so natural for him.
And I think historically, I think that was, you know, always viewed as like a disability, and I think people are now starting to realize that it's different, and in a lot of cases, there's autistic people that are extremely gifted, you know, can do amazing, you know, creative things that, you know, maybe 20, 30 years ago they'd be marginalized, but now I think it's starting
to understand it more, really.
Yeah, like it's just a whole different way of thinking, you know.
Yeah. It's just not everyone's brain's made the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's brains are capable of different things.
Yeah, well, and I think that's
like
where
body types as well, you know.
And I think that's where stereotypes, you know, and we're all guilty of it to some extent. You know, we look at somebody and we're like, oh, it's that type of person, or it's, you know, that type of guy or whatever. But, you know, people are much more complex than that and much more varied than that.
I also like, so I don't want to sound like stereotyping, but it's like chaos theory of patterns of things, which are infinitely different, but it makes like geometry in nature, like the cells on a leaf, or your DNA making your body is all, it's all completely individual. Like we are all individuals, but at the same time, they make these waves of patterns.
Yeah, there's a big lesson in that.
A stereotype, which might be true in some form of a sort of coating judgment.
Right.
Like I've seen a lot of Irish things going on in Ireland.
Yeah, there you
go. Not to stereotype too much, but you know, this thing that you just, oh right, yeah. This is sort of where that stereotype comes from, probably. All these little things that go. Like I saw a guy cycling along on his bike. He had a light on the back because it's night time, but he had it down so low that the mudguard was covering it, so you couldn't see it.
Okay.
But he had the light on. He thought, oh man, that's an Irish thing. That's an Irish thing to do. And the stereotyping, but it's like you do see these little patterns.
But
that will make a stereotype.
And if it's not adopted in a negative light, I think it's kind of sweet in a way, you know.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just like if you've got some crazy old uncle that's like doing some crazy old uncle thing and shooting his mouth off or whatever.
Yeah.
You know,
it's that crazy old uncle guy.
Yeah, but it's endearing.
It's like my granddad had a filthy mouth. He would like constantly say bad things.
Yeah.
And, like it's just he's one of them old men. You know?
Yeah. And in that light, you know, it takes on
you can
something
understand
nice.
it without knowing the guy.
Yeah, and if somebody takes it to a negative place, it can turn horrible.
Yeah.
And that's a Nazi thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
stereotyping.
It's interesting stuff.
Conversation.
Yeah. I know. So how about that one shot? You like that new formula?
Yeah. We need more low box stuff, right?
Yeah.
Frying our brains.
You know, that when I started the podcast, though, I was like trying to figure out, like, if I would really commit to this, like I don't want to sit around and talk about paint and brushes, you know.
There's so much you can talk about.
Like that'd be like 3-minute episode that's got any meaning to it, you know. But it was Gary Martin, who's are you familiar with him?
Yeah.
I know everybody knows his gorgeous work, but he had called about something. We were talking on the phone. I'm like, this is an awesome conversation, you know. Like, just so crazy too. He was talking about. Well, I won't say, because it was funny though. But you know, just from that conversation, is like, if I do this podcast, like, I want to just be real, like what
Talk to all the individuals.
whatever is interesting between two people, not just sticking to one thing.
I was saying to Vanessa yesterday, who's doing the gilding
Yeah.
as well. I said, have you noticed that every signwriter is crazy? I said,
Completely nuts, yeah.
I said, so by mathematics, we're also crazy, right? Like, yeah. So, yeah, this must be a special type of crazy to be a signwriter.
Yeah, I've never met a sane one.
Yeah. So that must mean you're insane.
That ship sailed long ago. I'm comfortable with that. It's
I'm
like,
still coming to terms with that as a young man.
yeah. As you get older, it gets a little easier.
People have always said I'm weird, but in a good way.
Do you laugh a lot?
I laugh a lot, yeah.
There you go. Then you got the whole. You
Why
beat
are you
the
so
whole
happy?
game. Yeah, you beat the game then.
Stop enjoying life.
Yeah. Well, and that's the bizarre thing is, I mean, you see people that are doing their 9-to-5 job, and you know they're buying brand new cars, and you know all of the things that we're told by advertising is normal, and you're not normal unless you do these things. But you know, just day after day goes by, and they don't have joy in their life.
Right? So you're plateauing out into a neutral grey.
Yeah.
But if life doesn't have splashes of colour, or what we're doing here, like helping people prevent suicide, is without life's downs, you won't have any ups.
Yeah.
You need that in life. You need some bad stuff for the good stuff to shine.
And I think if your life is so predictable that you're not experiencing ups and downs, then
very dull.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, I think we were talking about this last night. Is if you've dealt with struggles with depression or anxiety or these different things in life, then contributing to something like what we're doing with this project that's helping people that are suicidal, that has meaning to you, because you're like, well, maybe even just in a small way, I understand why that's important. Yeah. But if you're just worried about buying the next, designer jeans
and you get so
or whatever,
wrapped up in it, you don't have a second to think of anything.
Right. And you're not, at that point, you're not really feeling anything either, because you're just, you're just a worker bee. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you're 65 years old and you've got health problems, and you're like, oh crap, it's all gone,
Is this the deepest podcast we've had so far?
Could be. Yeah. Congratulations. You just depressed people in 70 countries.
I hope I bring happiness to people. I have to tell a joke. I can show you a joke.
Can you show me?
Yeah.
That's not going to translate real well in a podcast, but go for it.
You want to see how an Irishman ties his shoe?
Oh, it's going again? Oh, okay. Okay, so you come to Ireland to work on this project, and you're telling Irish jokes.
It's the only one I knew as a kid. I've got some good Irish friends though. But, for instance, the taxi man here was the funniest guy ever.
Who was?
The taxi guy who drove us from the airport. And the Irish have got such a good sense of humour, and I think a lot of people if you suffer something, or if you have a hardship, you have to turn it into comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
That's where the happiness comes through, because we'll make it happy.
Yeah, I've always thought two things with comedy. One is what you're saying. I mean, that's proven. Like Richard Pryor and all these guys have
so many real
horrible
depression,
childhoods. Yeah. And then it's the intellectual depth to make something funny.
Yeah.
I think most comedians are way smarter than the rest of us because they're tapping into something, they're spotting something.
Spotting the social cues.
Yeah, and they're like, that's funny.
And then make a joke about it.
Yeah, so that's always intriguing. I've never been able to successfully tell a joke because it's like I botch all the lines and say it at the wrong time. But it's always fascinated me, like, you know.
It's like an art in itself,
yeah,
isn't it?
no, it sure it is because it's like the all
comedy
the
craft.
timing,
Yeah.
and, you know, and just the little nuances that, like, you know, point out how ridiculous we all are as human beings.
Yeah.
You know, and that to me is genius. Yeah,
It's kind of, there's essence to everything, isn't it? Like you've got your rules and your formulas, even for comedy. The same with signs, you know, you follow your good layout, your letter space, you can get your weights right. You can follow these rules. Like, I'm completely hopeless at designing, but I just follow some rules that are kind of like the key essence, and things kind of turn out looking good because you just stick to these.
But there's soul to it too. Like,
Yeah,
you know, you hear
still
like
good.
an old blues record, and you know the recording quality might be terrible, and the guitar playing might be sloppy, and the voice isn't perfect and all that, but the soul's there. And I think there's a huge correlation with that with sign painting, where I've seen sign painters just do normal, like, block lettering sign that you look at and it resonates with you because there's something that they did, you know, you could feel something when they did it that translates, you know, but I think that's when it crosses over into art. You know, if you can make that emotional connection with somebody with whatever it is that you're doing, that's art. It's like you're speaking a
Toby
different
recommended
language.
a great book, The Elements of Lettering, and the two authors wrote together, but they talk about, they break down art and signwriting and things like that, and they just talk about lettering in this perfect way, and that the art of lettering is like a real sort of perfect form of art where you're doing it for a purpose, you're communicating something with someone for a purpose. I mean, like, that's art. You're creating something for a purpose, like to do something.
Yeah, and it's totally interactive.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what's, you know, you look at, like, it's kind of what branding's trying to do, and it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know, but you look at a sign, like for a lot of these pubs, for instance, you know, and some of these signs Tom's done here.
Yeah.
It's like it creates this emotional connection, this vibe where you're like, I want to go sit in there. That, you know, that's got,
I think
something
so much of life is experienced on an emotional level where we don't think about everything, and you don't break down every decision that you make because it would be exhausting. But people make decisions on that emotional response, so they'll get a whole feel. It might be just the way the tables are placed outside.
Right.
There's all these subtle little things which you're absorbing through your senses, and that will make your decision to act.
That's what I've always found fascinating about wine labels.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in the bottle, I mean, and sure, some wine snob could argue with me, but inside the bottle, it's essentially a Cabernet is a Cabernet for the most part.
Yeah.
But the label is what, like, engages you, and you're like, I want to try that one. You know, that to me is fascinating.
Good.
Yeah, it looks good. It's the red bottle. How does that look good? But it's that label. You know,
power of lettering and things. Yeah. For that, it's your sign. That is a sign.
Yeah.
On a bottle, and it's got such power it can make you decide which liquid to drink.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Which is completely irrelevant, but still
and completely irrational.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, theoretically, you should just, you know, well, I'm going to get this to have my meal tonight. Yeah. But all this other layers come into it because of that label.
You can't go through life and taste every single wine, for instance. You can't walk down the shopping aisle and, well, I'll try them all. You'd love to.
Yeah.
And then decide
Shane
which one.
McGowan maybe did. But.
Yeah, maybe. See, we have to sort of filter through life like that, don't we?
Yeah, and it's interesting how those, and that's purely a rational, emotional reaction.
Yeah.
But it's also pleasurable and enjoyable because now you've got this thing, you take it home, show your wife, look at this bottle of wine I got for
fancy,
dinner.
Right? It's got a gold foil lettering.
Yeah. It's like, see how it shines in the light?
I think we're all magpies, essentially.
Yeah, yes, for sure. A lot of foolishness there. But it's those things that, like, make you happy, and that's where, again, the sign comes in. is if you're walking down the street and they've taken the time to, put good signage up for the different places, even if let's say it's 8 in the morning and no one's open yet, you feel way better walking down that street than you do some street where it's all
very
just
sterile.
Generic Helvetica lettering on everything. That's not engaging.
So we were talking earlier about how I got into signwriting and things, but I also in my first year of uni I went to Mexico for 3 weeks, and everything there was really vivid and colourful. Like they paint their buildings like a bright pink. It's called Mexican pink, or a deep blue. And I was just like staring at the wall of this house in Mexico, just looking at the sun shining on the colour. I was like, wow, this looks great. This is like a really nice paint. But in London, everything's sort of grey and miserable, and it had a real impact to me. Just the difference between like colour processes I was learning at uni. So
and there's a living version.
Yeah, so the difference between something that's printed to be pink or displayed pink on a screen, and then the pure pigment of pink in whatever form it is, a chemical form like cobalt or blue or something. That you've got these real chemicals that make these colours that just release light, which is energy waves, in this purest form.
Yeah, and seeing pink in direct sun versus seeing pink under a fluorescent light in a little cubicle.
Different.
Yeah, totally different experience.
So a lot of my work and research at uni was on the materials and how your brain would perceive through the eye of these things.
Okay.
And seeing something in its purest form. It's probably my love of gold. It's so pure that it's the material, it's the colour, it's the quality with the glass, it's everything that comes together to give this pure finish that can't be matched in any other way.
Yeah, and gold fascinates me for that reason. Just the fact that historically it's been revered.
Yeah.
There's I think something metaphysical that occurs when we see gold or something. I don't know, but I mean it's like
ingrained with society.
You react to it, and it like immediately downloads in your brain like a whole history that gold is important.
Yeah.
I don't even know why, but I mean, it's seriously something happens when you see gold on glass like that,
isn't it?
Yeah, like if you're walking down the street and you vinyl white stickers, blah blah, then you see gold leaf window. Yeah. It's
like looking at fire, and it just never gets old.
Yeah.
I go camping a lot, and you just stare at the fire, and you just
you sit there for hours.
Yeah, why can you look at a fire for 5 hours and just go, it's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's tough.
It's like one of them things.
And there's copper to me is very reactive as well. I look at copper and I'm just like, I want to stare at it. I don't know what's happening. But there's something too. I mean, in those like kind of pure elements, I think it's just some kind of connection that's at a level we don't understand.
It's like the neon sign behind you. It's just kicking off a real, like it trips your eyes out a bit. Yeah. It's really cool, but that's why they're still used today. It's such a nice thing to look at.
Yeah.
And I saw they're making like fake neons now. It's like LED strip ones. You know it. You know what you're trying to look at is meant to be a neon light, but it just doesn't. It will never give the glow and the electricity of that neon light behind you. So
well, and that same with when they came out with cut vinyl letters.
Yes, it is.
It's still an S.
Yeah. And
it's a perfect S.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
It doesn't have that buzz about it.
Yeah.
Hand painting, when you see the brushstroke and the flicks and the pure pigment colours. The colour for me is amazing in paint, and you just don't have that any other way.
And the little imperfections that just like
the texture of the wall.
The corner of the letter isn't quite finished off and all that. I mean, all of those subtleties
gives it energy.
Yeah, a lot of metaphors there too.
Yeah,
it's kind of cool.
Pretty tired, so this is probably helping a lot of this deep stuff come out right
You'll
now.
sleep like a baby on the plane.
Yeah, and then I'll wake up again on the motorbike heading home.
Did you leave the bike at the
Just
airport?
at the airport, yeah, it felt really cool, just jumping off your motorbike, jumping on a plane.
World travel.
Yeah, with a rucksack. I'm off to meet a load of guys I've never met.
Yeah.
See you later, everyone.
We're going to go change the world. The sign.
To get some odd looks. So.
Yeah, that's all right.
Covered in paint. I sat down on the plane and the guy next to me looked at me. He looked like he just finished work or something. So, well, maybe I have, mister, okay?
Or maybe I'm just getting started.
Yeah. He's like, can't wear anything else. Wouldn't judge me if I was in a business suit.
Yeah.
Or would you?
Or maybe you should be judging the guy in the business suit. Think about that.
It's quite fun, this sort of chatting about nothing.
Yeah. It's like
See what you do,
it's like
yeah.
the easiest show in the
Do they
world.
pay for this as well? This is the best job in the world.
No one pays me anything. I get
That
some
full
coffee.
city rooster, how did he pay his flight? You know, he's paying you loads of money.
Yeah. We're all rolling.
His coffee's great.
It is very good. Yes.
That was nice of him to supply the show and everything.
Yeah, and it was really cool. He came. I'm like,
I've got a bag of it in my rucksack.
Yeah, right on. Good.
Okay, Hep Cats. This is the part of the show where we play a song from the Arhoolie archive, so pay attention. You can get these tunes from the legendary Arhoolie records at arhoolie.com. Now sit back, open up some One Shot, crank up the volume, and expand your minds, babies.
Yeah.
And that was the Treme Brass Band with My Bucket's Got a Hole in It from the Arhoolie compilation They All Played for Us.
Coffee with a Sign Painter is brought to you by the Big D Speed Shop in Dallas, Texas. You can find licensed apparel of Sean Starr's original designs at bigdspeedshop.com. The show is also brought to you by Full City Rooster Coffee Roasters, makers of the Sign Painter's Blend. Coffee that Sean drinks in the studio every day. Now shipping worldwide. FullCityRooster.com. Thanks for listening to Coffee with a Sign Painter, hosted by Sean Starr. You can find all sorts of info about the show and sign painting, including previous episodes, at our website, seanstarr.com.